Taylor Cordy. We're here at my mom's coffee shop called E-Town Coffee in Elizabeth, Illinois. I'm from Scalesbound, Illinois, where my family also has a farm where we raise beef cattle, and we also have a few pigs. Alright, so not only does my mom sell coffee, but she also has a wide selection of wine. Some of it is locally made, and others is imported from like Italy. We also have seen some local milk in glass bottles, and then a bunch of different crafts that are handmade by locals, including some hats, scarves, wine stoppers, cards, and coasters.
I'm Cordy. I am the owner of E-Town Coffee here in Elizabeth, Illinois. My daughter Taylor worked for the Lynn County Farm Bureau, and that is how all of these fine ladies are here visiting today. I grew up in Elizabeth. I now live in Scales Mound with my husband, Chad, and we have 4 kids.
Can you tell us a little bit more information about how you became a coffee shop owner? How did this come to be?
Actually, no master plan, kind of on a whim. Since I'm from Elizabeth, I drove by the shop one day when the previous owner was still running it, and there was a for sale sign in the window. So it took me about, I would say, probably 3 weeks to get up the courage to inquire about the sale of the business. I really have no background in, this is the first business I've owned myself. I've always worked for other people, but just decided to take the leap kind of on a wing and a prayer, and it has worked out really well. I just had my 5-year anniversary in November, and the business continues to grow, almost at a pace that we're outgrowing our current building. However, I will never move. This is like a staple of Elizabeth, so we'll stay here forever. So I guess coffee and agriculture, most of the beans that I get, of course, are imported. I do not roast my own beans. Those are roasted locally in Galena, Illinois. And he imports from Brazil, Colombia, all over the world. He actually, most of my beans are fair trade, because the gentleman that roasts my coffee is very conscious of fair trade and that. It's a higher quality when it's fair trade because those people are depending on that for their livelihood as well. Lots of small independent farmers that he sources his coffee beans from. Our cappuccinos are European style. They are not what you would get at the gas station. True cappuccinos are 1/3 espresso, 1/3 steamed milk, and 1/3 milk foam, so they are definitely stronger. Our cappuccinos have no flavor unless someone asks for a specific flavor, but it's definitely not what you're going to get when you stop at the Quick Trip. Lattes are steamed milk and espresso, so you can add flavor to those. Those can be done hot or cold. We offer all of our drinks hot or cold. And mochas have either a caramel sauce, a mocha syrup, or we do white chocolate sauce. And those are the same ratio of espresso to milk as a latte.
What have you found is the most enjoyable part of owning a coffee shop, and what is the most challenging?
The most enjoyable, I think, is the people that I get to meet. We are on Highway 20, so we meet a lot of travelers going between Galena and Chicago, but really we've met people from all over the world. Just meeting people, I really enjoy meeting different people, talking to people, and making people happy. You know, someone can have a really bad day, and we find a way to make their day better.
A cup of coffee always helps.
Yeah. It just a nice place for people to come and unwind and, just have an enjoyable break from maybe a stressful day. the most challenging is definitely making sure you have adequate staff, and hiring people who are interested in your business, people who are not just looking for a job, but are truly interested in bringing something to the business. And I've always been very fortunate. Most of the people that have worked for me, we learn from each other, because I didn't know anything about making coffee when I bought this. I loved to drink it. I loved to drink wine. I did not know how to use the machine out front. So the previous baristas that stayed with me from the business transaction definitely taught me everything I know. And yeah, so it's definitely like finding a way to have people become vested in your dream. And I think if you're good to your employees, that it just shows. Like we just all work well together, and I've always had employees who just get it. They understand how to treat people, and we have fun. You know, if you can't have fun at work, it's not going to be a very enjoyable place to go every day. So we have a lot of fun. We work really hard, but we accomplish a lot. And at the end of the day, you know, like that was a good day.
What has been the most surprising thing that you came across from buying a business and becoming an entrepreneur?
I think the growth of the business has almost been a little overwhelming at times. I did not expect we've doubled business in 4 years, and that's awesome and amazing, but it can be overwhelming at times, because I'm the buyer, I'm the worker, I'm the bill payer, I'm the orderer. You know, I do it all, which is kind of unique for a family business, especially a restaurant type business. Most businesses like restaurants are truly like a whole family, a husband, a wife, maybe grandparents, and then your children, where it's me, because Chad farms, and that's why I like having Taylor back for the summer. Definitely, she just knows what needs to be done. She jumps in and does it. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that we do, and just making sure you always have everything you need. We have a lot of products that keep us going on a daily basis, or knowing how far in advance you need to order something to make sure it gets here.
Speaking of that, we do a few lessons for Ag in the Classroom on supply chain. So you were mentioning the supply chain challenges in the last year or so. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so obviously COVID has impacted everyone. It started with things like meats and cheese, things that are produced that rely on factories for production, because obviously with COVID, you weren't allowed to have 300 people in a factory working together. So that production all slowed way down, and it wasn't really bad until when things got back to normal per se, because now it seems like there's such a lack of workers. It's as though all the workers disappeared and nobody knows where to go find them back. So now they're struggling on staffing. You know, the demand is back for all the products, but the staffing to produce that stuff is not there like it was pre-COVID. So sometimes I don't get turkey 1 week, but I never know until I'm sitting there ordering with my rep. You know, or they think they're going to be getting it in time for me to get it on my truck, and it shows up 2 days later to them. Well, that doesn't. So the past year has just been constantly readjusting. If something doesn't come in, I have to figure out how to get it. So that's been a little stressful.
Yeah. And with being a coffee shop, I know there's sometimes different seasons for other businesses. Is there like a busier season or weekends, or what does that look like for you?
We slow down a little bit in February and March. Otherwise,
I bet
Our
fall
s-
and winter are pretty busy.
Yeah, our summer actually started really early this year. It started like the beginning of April, and generally mid-May is when we start seeing an uptick with travelers, but that summer started very early this year, so wasn't expecting that. That kind of caught me off guard, but we are extremely busy through the summer with travelers, and we have a great local base as well. And then fall is really busy because of the leaves changing and
Festive fall dreams.
yes, and then we really stay busy through mid-January. Yeah. So there's very little downtime, and lots of long days, lots of 15-hour days, pretty standard. Yeah.
How do you balance that with like family?
Well, it's definitely easier now that we don't have kids in high school. That helps, but it's tricky. It's tricky. Don't come to my house. I'm gonna say that loud. Don't come to my house. Sometimes that's the last thing you worry about. This is my priority, but I always find time to make family time.
Coffee is grown in a region that is nicknamed the Bean Belt. This area is located around the equator that gives coffee plants optimal growing climates. There are two kinds of coffee, Arabica and Robusta. Robusta is much smaller and more bitter in taste than Arabica, but is much cheaper and easier to farm. Arabica is much more popular as it is richer in flavor and better tasting, but it thrives best in higher elevation and can be more difficult to produce. Coffee beans are located in the pits of a fruit called coffee cherries. Coffee cherries grow on small trees or shrubs that can grow up to 16 feet high. However, farmers often keep them pruned at 5 to 7 feet for comfortable picking height. About 3 to 5 years after being planted, coffee trees begin to flower before producing coffee cherries. Coffee cherries take several months to mature and go through a variety of color phases during the maturation process. It began as a bright green color before fading into a pale pink, then to red, to dark red, to purple, and finally to black. Farmers often harvest coffee cherries when they are the dark red shade as they have the best flavor. Purple and black coffee cherries are often considered rotten. The only time they are brown is after they are roasted. During harvest, many farmers can't afford the expensive costs of labor and machinery and instead will choose to strip pick. Strip picking is done all at once, which is less beneficial for farmers as many coffee plants mature at different times. Coffee trees often produce 1 to 1.5 pounds of roasted coffee a year. Begin with filling the portafilter with freshly ground coffee beans. Next, tamp down the ground coffee beans and place the portafilter back into the espresso machine to begin pulling espresso shots. Typically, a 16-ounce cup of coffee gets about 2 shots of espresso. While that settles, let's get together our sauces and syrups. This cup of coffee gets white chocolate sauce, coconut syrup, and toasted marshmallow syrup. This is done in a frothing cup. Because this is an iced coffee, we will be placing the espresso shots in with the sauces and syrups so they can melt together for a better flavor. Next, pour in the milk. This drink was made with almond milk, but whole milk, skim, and coconut are also available. And there you have it, a fresh, delicious cup of coffee.